started the live stream early. And I don't know if it's working or not, but we're going to go with it. We're going to assume that it is, to some extent at least, working. Might not be though. It might be waiting on that. No, apparently it does work. So we will see. We will see if this is work. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. Hopefully, this is. I didn't just break. I probably just broke everything. Show's canceled for the night, I guess. Nah, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. It's. We're here. We're live. We're going. We're gonna try this. We're gonna see if we can make it work. Is it officially 7 yet? I got to hit the button for the rest of the audience as soon as it hits the right time. Let's see. Let's do it. You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Here we are. Welcome to the JD Rucker Show, the JD Rucker live show. For those who aren't aware, we do a morning show, which is actually the Frank Speech Show. It broadcasts on Frank Speech's Rumble channel and Roku and all those other places at 5 p.m. Pacific. But then we have this. This is the live show every day at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you're anywhere in between, then you're different time. So I'm sure you can figure it out from Eastern and Pacific. So yeah, huge show today. Sometimes there are days when I actually struggle to find stories that I want to talk about, because generally speaking, I don't like talking about the stories that everybody's talking about. But then every now and then there's a story that I have to talk about, that everybody's talking about, because it's big enough to talk about. Just as an example, I don't know if you guys caught this, but President Trump was inaugurated earlier this week. And so, yeah, even though everybody else was talking about it, I talked about it too, because that's what we're supposed to do. There were a couple of stories today that were actually definitely worth talking about and that everybody's talking about, and I'm okay with that. Because they are important. There's one that actually just broke. I mean, I'm talking like it hit my feed, less than an hour ago. House Rep proposes amendment to allow Trump a third term. Now, this is the worst nightmare possible for the left. They were talking about it. There were some conspiracy theories that were raging across the interwebs, saying that if Trump wins, then he's never going to leave, and he's going to get a third term, and yada yada yada. And we were all like, "Stop it, you people! He wouldn't do that." Well, apparently, at least one House Republican thinks that he should. Representative Andy Ogles proposed an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would allow President Trump to serve a third term in the White House so that the country can sustain the bold leadership our nation so desperately needs. Now, that's just to be clear, obviously, for many reasons, I'm completely against this, but it would still be nice. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But the biggest reason that I would be against it, other than, of course, the constitutional implications, is the fact that a Trump presidency for 4 years is going to be a very powerful Trump presidency. I think we've seen too many times where presidents, including President Trump in his first term, they didn't do as much as they probably should have done, thinking that they were going to have another term to go. The first term is usually like the weak stick, the not make too many waves because you want to get reelected term, right? But then afterwards, the second term is when they can do whatever they want. And I like the fact that it seems, it's demonstrable that Trump's second term has been nothing short of uber aggressive. He is doing the things that I'm sure some of the things that he wanted to do in his first term, other things that he wouldn't even have thought about or considered doing in his first term. So yeah, so I'm not really in favor of this. But then again, my gosh, wouldn't that be nice? We'll see. And don't forget, he is. I mean, I know that he's super healthy and he's loaded with energy. He's got 15 times the energy of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put together, and he has the energy of like a 40 year old sometimes. So yeah, I mean, but he is still old. So I don't know about this one. Ogles proposed an amendment saying that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Notice the important caveat there is nor be elected to an additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms. In other words, like, this is specifically designed for a third Trump term. And, future presidents would have a very hard time doing it because they would have to repeat what he did. In other words, they'd have to win the election and then not serve for a term and then win another election. And that's where Ogles believes that you could make the case for a third term. Now, obviously, something like this couldn't happen. But you know what? Crazier things have happened. That's why we've got to report on this stuff. That's why we've got to report on it. Mary Beck, good evening. Good evening to you too as well. And what an evening it has been. So for those who maybe you missed yesterday's show or the day before, we are doing a few things slightly differently. Okay. In the past, I've been doing about an hour and then I replay the morning show and then I do half an hour to an hour afterwards. That caused too long of a break, okay? But there still needs to be a break because, as many of you know, I'm the editor of thelibertydaily.com as well as discernreport.com as well as americafirstreport.com, and these need constant attention. I can't just take 2 or 3 hours off when I'm on shift. And in the evening, every day, 365 days a year, 366 on leap years, I am on shift, okay? It's been a long, long time since I have not run the Liberty Daily in the evenings and the other sites as well. So I need that break. But what we've tried yesterday, and it was, I would say, mostly successful. I had one major snafu that I screwed up on, but it was mostly successful, and I would say, yeah, I mean, it's doable. So we're going to try it again tonight. That new system is where I will do my show live, and I'll stay live the entire time. But to be able to hop in, check the feed, make edits to the Liberty Daily, I'm going to play individual segments from the morning show. Okay, not all of them, but some of the segments that I talked about this morning, especially the important ones, we're going to replay those in the evening. And it's 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there. That should buy me enough time to where it's okay. I'll push the button and it'll take it away for 3 to 7 minutes. And while you guys are watching that, I will be making my edits to the aggregator sites. So that's the plan. We're definitely going to stick to it because so far it seems to be the winner. There were a couple of snafus, and I've been loaded with snafus lately. I was waiting for somebody to hop in chat and notice one of my snafus. I had what we'll call it a dry cleaning scheduling malfunction. So yeah, I'm still wearing the same shirt and jacket that I was wearing yesterday, and I'm very ashamed by that. Not really. I'm not ashamed. It's not dirty. I don't sweat. I mean, come on. I don't sweat. So therefore, it's perfectly clean and fine. The bigger concern for me is my wife being an incredible cook. I tend to get stuff on my shirt. She actually did buy me an adult bib, and I think I would have been okay with it if she just called it a bib, but she called it an adult bib, which made it feel like it's an adult diaper, but for the face. And it's like, I don't know if I want that. I'll just stick with dirty shirts. So tomorrow we will have a a fresh wardrobe of all of my shirts and well, half of my shirts and jackets. The other, we do it in halves. Gosh, too much information. Let's get to some more of these stories here. This was the big one, the big story that came out earlier, and I want to preface this one by saying I will believe it when I see it. I trust President Trump. Okay, I really do believe that he has every intention of releasing the hidden, the secret, declassifying the JFK documents, the RFK documents, the MLK documents, the files, so that we can find out what the CIA did to kill all three of these men. Now, of course, we already know a lot, but there's a lot of details, a lot of holes still left, especially as it pertains, to be clear. There's a lot more information about JFK and MLK, not as much about RFK, okay, as far as publicly released. And I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. But as of now, as of today, the executive order has been signed. According to this article on Red State, on Thursday, President Donald Trump fulfilled another campaign promise by signing an executive order declassifying all federal government files pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. According to the National Archives, the declassified documents represent about 3% of the total records of these incidents, but, as we might note, sometimes the devil is in the details. And look, there could be one line that just says, such and such ordered such and such to do this. Okay? I don't care what percent. The part that they've kept classified, the parts that they've kept classified, are the parts, that's where obviously the juiciest stuff is. And let's hope that this won't get, there's a lot of things that could happen between now and full disclosure. I'm not expecting, you'd call me Debbie Downer. I'm not expecting full disclosure at all. I'm expecting a lot of redactions for national security purposes. In other words, to protect the guilty. I'm expecting a lot of shredding. Oh, we couldn't find. I know the record says there was a document here, but we went there, and that particular document is gone. Those crazy kids in accounting and documents. Dang it. Let's go straight to let's get to the executive order itself. This is from whitehouse.gov. It's called Declassification of Records Concerning the Assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. More than 50 years after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the federal government has not released to the public all of its records related to those events. Their families and the American people deserve transparency and truth. It is in the national interest to finally release all records related to these assassinations without delay. And then it just goes into information about each individual. I previously accepted proposed redactions from executive departments and agencies in 2017 and 2018, but ordered the continued reevaluation of those remaining redactions. Blah, 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 blah. President Biden issued subsequent certification with respect to these records in 2021, 22, and 23, which gave agencies additional time to review the records and withhold information from public disclosure. I have now determined that the continued redaction and withholding of information from records pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy Jr. is not consistent with the public interest, and the release of these records is long overdue. And although no act of Congress directs the release of information pertaining to the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I have determined that the release of all records in the federal government's possession pertaining to each of those assassinations is also in the public interest. He's trying, okay? His attorneys, his team put together the as close to a loophole-free executive order as possible. But again, I hate being that guy, but I will believe it when I see it, and not a second before then, because we are talking about a deep state apparatus that has about 3,000 goals, right? They are tremendous. They are gigantic. They are huge. They're self-serving. They have about 3,000 goals, but the two goals that are paramount, that are never broken. Number one, cover your butt. Okay? They protect themselves above all things. Okay? That's if cities burn, if nations burn, they would rather let that happen than to implicate themselves. They being the puppet masters within the deep state, within the globalist elite cabal as well. So number two, the overarching, the prevailing order that supersedes all other orders, even from a president of the United States, is that the primary mission of controlling the world, the globalist elite cabal's ultimate goal, supersedes everything else. So if there's anything in those records that they think could prevent them from achieving either of those goals, in other words, can they get in trouble? Will this slow them down from their goal of world domination? If either of those two things are in play, then they will not release all of the documents. They will find some way to prevent them from being released. They would lock them up and put armed guards, and they would risk a firefight with whoever before they would let any of that go. So again, we'll see. And for all I know, there could be nothing burgers. They could just be, they've been dangling this carrot. The documents could have been destroyed decades ago, and they could just be dangling this carrot to keep us from saying, hey, where did the documents go? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. It is a distinct possibility. All right, I've got to go make a quick edit to the Liberty Daily, so I'm going to play this segment from this morning that explains why, I was very skeptical when President Trump was on the campaign trail and he was talking about the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. I thought, my gosh, did he read it? There's no way. This can't work. You got to have a declaration of war. Was he going to declare war against Venezuela? But there's a reason why I'm not in the White House. I am not an attorney. I cannot give legal advice, nor can I find or see the legal loopholes that they were apparently able to very clearly see. They did definitely see it, and they had a response for us. So here's this clip. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Here's an explainer of the law that Trump may invoke. And when they say may invoke, I think we are in the process. The Trump administration is currently working on invoking it as we speak. Now, for full disclosure, when he was first talking about this on the campaign trail, I thought, that sounds nice. But as I looked into it and realized, you've got to have a declaration of war, you got to have this, you got to have that, it's like, I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off. And I was wrong. He's got some very smart people around him, people who have found, I don't want to say loopholes, we'll just say who've helped him to set up the conditions through which they'll be able to enact this executive order, take advantage of this law, and start deporting a whole bunch of people. We've got this article by Darlene McCormick Sanchez over the Epoch Times, but before we get to it, I want to just cut to the chase for those with a short attention span, because it is kind of a long article. But I want to tell you right up front why this is important. So the way that everything's situated now, with borders are Tom Homan, going out there, deportations have already started. Praise God for that. But here's the thing. The way that they're going after the violent criminals, right? They're going after just criminals in general, basically those who are either in jail right now, illegal aliens that are in jail, get rid of them, or that have been arrested, charged, and but they're now freed and roaming the country. He's going after those people first. Great. What happens when we have to go after others? And do we have to sit and wait around for example, for Venezuelan gang members to commit crimes before Tom Homan's going to go after them? And with this, the answer is no. We can start going after the Tren de Aragua, for example. We can start going after them, not have to wait for them to commit crimes. This is a game changer. This means that Tom Homan and ICE, they will be able to start going after the very dangerous Venezuelan gangs and not have to wait until they commit the crimes that they invariably will commit. Super excited about this one. But let's get to the article itself. We have it cross-posted over at America First Report. Com. President Donald Trump is considering employing a centuries-old law to expedite the deportation of foreign national gangs and cartel members to help secure the U.S. border. On the campaign trail, Trump pledged to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. That was a quote. The Alien Enemies Act is part of the larger Alien and Sedition Act, which Congress enacted during John Adams' presidency when the United States was on the brink of war with France. It is a sweeping law that, when invoked, grants the president extraordinary power. On the first day of office, Trump signed 10 border-related executive actions, including an executive order that states that the president may invoke the Alien Enemies Act to stop, quote, any invasion or predatory incursion against the United States by a qualifying actor. And that's the important part. There are two conditions, and this is why I was skeptical, because there are two conditions that must be met to invoke the act, according to Joshua Trevino, Chief Transformation Officer for the Texas Public Policy Foundation, a conservative think tank that analyzes policy. First, there must be a war, invasion, or predatory incursion of the United States territory, which he stated that's what he's going after in his executive order. Second, the invasion or hostile act must be committed by a foreign government, and that's the part that was the real sticking point for me. Okay? I mean, this was intended to basically go after, in 1798, to go after anybody who's French. Hey, if you're French, we got to get rid of you, because there's a chance there's a lot of French people that are trying to get us into war with France, and we don't want to do that, so we're going to get rid of you. Doesn't matter. If you're French, you're gone. That was the notion. This was also used by FDR to create the Japanese internment camps after the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor. So there is precedent to this. And you might think, but those, in both cases, those are nations, one Japan, one France, and then there's been a couple of other uses of the act. So how does this apply? Can we just say, we're going to get rid of anybody from Venezuela? No, that's not what they're trying to do. And it would be very difficult to do that. But no, they outsmarted everybody. Let's get back to the article. The act was initially used to stop French people in the United States from agitating for war. Based on that scenario, Trevino believes terrorist groups acting as foreign powers or operating in association with foreign governments could meet the requirements needed to invoke the law. And this is a quote from Trevino. He said, "When you look at cartel activity, then we are being invaded." And it's true. It's an invasion. They're not coming over here to integrate with the United States of America. They're not trying to become Americans. They're trying to take over their little piece of America and turn it into their version of Venezuela. And it's not just Venezuelan gangs, to be clear. There are multiple cartels, multiple gangs out there that are operating in a way that is contrary to the law and order and safety and security of the United States of America. That's why I agree. This is an invasion. He said the cartels and foreign gangs could be seen as quasi-government entities assaulting the country's sovereignty. Again, very true. They're not just randomly going around, marauders going around from city to city, state to state, country to country, trying to find their home. They said, we're going to America and we're taking over. Taking over this apartment complex, then this city, then this state. That's their intention. They actually do have state support. This is according to Trevino again. They actually do have state support. In many cases, they are state agents. The intersection of the cartels with the Mexican government is very robust. The cartels take in billions of dollars through drug smuggling and human trafficking, have their own armed forces, and control territory within Mexico. The Alien Enemies Act states that when the president makes a public proclamation to invoke the act, all natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government, being males of the age of 14 years and above, women, you guys are fine, who shall be within the United States and not actually naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. Trump issued and this is the important part, Trump issued two related executive orders that address the designation of foreign enemies and invasion. The first order is titled Designating Cartels and Other Organizations as Foreign Terrorist Organizations and Specially Designated Global Terrorists. Okay? And the second it's titled Guaranteeing the States Against Invasion. Pretty straightforward. With both measures in place, Trump can gain extraordinary authority to deal with an invasion or wartime conditions at the border. He says, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, he said during his inaugural address. Under this order, the president has given several federal agencies 14 days to provide recommendations regarding the designation of the cartels. And I'm going to stop right there. There's more to the story, and it's a very good story. It goes into what the ACLU is trying to do, state actions that can be done, what Greg Abbott has already done, something very similar, okay, with his actions down in Texas. This takes it a step further because this actually says, hey, if you are part of an organization that falls under this act, whether it's a Mexican cartel, a Venezuelan gang, anybody that we say, hey, these guys are invaders, then we can find you and deport you immediately. You don't have to commit a crime. Your crime is being here as part of the invasion force. That's basically what this act does. And by golly, we have to do something like this. Now, of course, you're going to get AOC and the ACLU and the AO whatever, blah, blah, blah. They always have those weird initials. You're going to get them coming after Trump, suing him, saying that you can't do this, you can't do that. And we'll see how that plays out. I am more confident this time around because, again, not only do we have a more experienced president and a more experienced team behind him, but we also have the people behind him, far more than he had in 2017. So I am extraordinarily hopeful that this can go into effect, that they are going to act upon it, and that in a very short period of time, we may finally start to rid this nation of the scourge of the cartels and illegal alien gangs. I like that. I like doing that a lot. I really do. That I was able to get in there into the Liberty Daily, found a couple of cool news stories, and was able to get them published in that brief period of time. Actually read through one of them that I considered bringing it up in today's show, but we've got such a packed show already. We really do. I don't have any time to spare, which means let's move on to the next story real fast, quick. AI developed drugs that are backed by Google are headed to trial by 2026. By 2026. In other words, within a year, maybe 2 years max, we are going to have drugs that were developed by artificial intelligence. Now, here's the thing. I know there's a lot of people out there, a lot of you probably, who are like, oh yeah, I'm all for it. If these drugs can work, doesn't matter whether they are developed by artificial intelligence, because our concerns are perhaps with mRNA technology, right? And if they're just making, a better version of penicillin, amoxicillin, or whatever, if they're making a safer version of Ozempic, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to try, but let's see. Let's dive into this article. Oh, and this comes to us from endtimesheadlines.org. Is it .org? Yeah, .org. Artificial intelligence is transforming the pharmaceutical industry, with AI-designed drugs anticipated to commence clinical trials by next year. According to Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis, who is the founder of Isomorphic Labs, and he's talking in Davos. I wonder what he was doing in Davos at the World Economic Forum. He says, AI applied to science is a lot richer than just the language models. It's so true. We're hopeful. We'll hopefully have some AI-designed drugs in the clinic by the end of the year. That's the plan. Notably, Isomorphic Labs, a subsidiary of Alphabet, which owns Google, is scheduled to initiate trials for an AI-designed drug by the end of this year, targeting significant health concerns, such as oncology, cardiovascular disorders, and neurodegenerative diseases. Additionally, Retro Biosciences, supported by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who drives ChatGPT, is undertaking efforts to secure $1 billion in funding to expand human lifespan by a decade. So AI, combined with big pharma, combined with big tech, combined with transhumanism. Let's call it what it is. That's exactly what they're describing here. Back to the article. The organization intends to launch clinical trials for 3 drugs this year, which include a promising treatment for Alzheimer's. That's in Australia. Retro Biosciences employs AI models to design proteins aimed at reversing cellular aging with the objective of alleviating human suffering associated with diseases, including Alzheimer's. The incorporation of AI in the drug discovery process is poised to significantly accelerate the traditional protracted drug development timeline. They're going to get the drugs, they're going to make them better, they're going to get them to us faster. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I love it. For those who might be new to the show, if you're not detecting my sarcasm, I am one of those extreme skeptics when it comes to artificial intelligence. And it's not just because of this. This to me is where they lead, sort of like it's the feel good aspect of a burgeoning technology like artificial intelligence, which will become this year artificial general intelligence, which will become in the very near future artificial superintelligence, which no matter how many precautions they claim they're taking, it will be very destructive for the human race. Back to the article. Let's finish this up. The pharmaceutical sector confronts challenges characterized by high costs and low success rates, which with over 90% of clinical trials failing. AI holds the potential to address these issues by enhancing the drug discovery. And listen to how they're pitching this. This is a sales pitch. You're being pitched right now. I'm echoing it, but I definitely disagree with it. AI holds the potential to address these issues by enhancing the drug discovery process in various respects, including the identification of drug targets and the design of novel, more effective pharmacological solutions. As AI technologies continue to advance, their role in the development of innovative drugs is becoming increasingly vital. Vital. We couldn't have survived without these. I don't know how we made it this far as a race. Offering optimism for more efficient and effective treatments for a range of diseases. Now, again, I know that many of you out there are probably listening to me and thinking, I didn't hear anything bad. You didn't hear the negatives that can be associated with this. Am I saying that I don't want better drugs that can help people to live longer, that can help people to suffer less, that can cure diseases? Am I saying that? Not necessarily. Though I am a humongous fan personally. I'm not suggesting this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. But I kind of believe in good food, lots of sunlight, exercise, no ultra-processed foods. Keep it as natural as possible. Get from your local farmers and all that good stuff. And then if you have a disease that requires further medical treatments that go beyond anything that can be considered natural, fine. Make a choice. Make a choice on how to proceed. And does this offer more choices through artificial intelligence? For now, probably yes. But again, I go back to the old idea. I've often said that artificial intelligence isn't going to kill us through Skynet, right? I've said that it's not going to be some evil version of AI that would take us out. Instead, it'll be our complacency. It will just be the replacement aspect of it. We talk about replacement theory here often. Talk about replacement theory. Imagine getting replaced in pretty much everything that we do with artificial intelligence. We would literally become useless eaters. That's what our role would be. That's the ushering in of universal basic income, modern monetary theory, absolute laziness, and a population that is incapable of doing anything on their own. We become a very dependent species. Now, chances are, if you're watching this, you're not going to be among those. Not just because you're a conservative or a patriot or a Christian or whatever, however you identify, but because you've already lived long enough to develop some skills. Sure, we have some younger audiences, but a lot of, if you are, let's say you're sitting there, you're a teenager, right, listening to this show, you can tell me better than I know myself about how many of your friends, many of your peers would be incapable of surviving if they didn't have internet and a mobile device. They wouldn't know what to do. They couldn't get anywhere. They couldn't do anything. And that's before artificial intelligence. So yes, I feel that is the biggest threat when it comes to artificial general intelligence, especially driven by, or powered by, I should say, quantum computers, which we are within 3, 4, 5, 7 years max. That's going to happen. It's going to become a reality. But With that said, let's say that there is this Skynet version of evil artificial intelligence that decides, you know what, the best way to protect humans is to kill as many of them as possible. It's possible. We've seen many science fiction movies and shows and read science fiction books that seems to be a very common conclusion for artificial intelligence. Once it gets smart enough to really solve problems, it realizes that the biggest problem is us. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of people out there, the climate change cultists who would totally agree and who would totally do anything they could to make sure that that conclusion was met by the artificial intelligence. The point I'm trying to get at is this. It won't be, chances are, I'm not saying definitively, I don't think that it's going to be flying robot dogs with machine guns if AI does turn malicious. I think it would be through something like this. It's a lot easier, with a lot less carnage, a lot less mess to clean up, a lot less destruction of infrastructure, if they were to just poison us and poison us over time. Get as many as they could. Now, this is where you say, okay, Rucker, put on your tinfoil hat. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got thick hair, okay? I have been very blessed by God with a thick head of hair, and it makes it to where, yeah, I can, and often do, come up with some crazy ideas. But unfortunately, I'm often right. Sorry, but it's true. I'm usually right. So, with that said, let's get to a happier story. And when I say happier, it's still pretty sad, but at least it's funny. I want funny. I mean, we need more funny in the world. Y'all remember Cassidy Hutchison? I'm sure you do. She was the star witness for the January 6th committee. She was the one who was going to end Trump. She was going to be the nail in Trump's political coffin. She was going to accuse him of things, of doing things. She's going to go out there and say, yeah, he totally jumped over the seat and tried to grab the wheel, and he was beating up Secret Service agents like Jason Bourne, and he was like, heck no, I'm going to drive directly into the Capitol. We gotta. Well, as it turned out, of course, all of her testimony was false. But that's not the story here. We got a funnier story. I say funnier because, well, it made me laugh. There's a report. This came from the Washington Post, so take it with a grain of salt. Okay, Washington Post has a tendency to occasionally maybe completely manufacture stories to fit their narrative. Now, this is one where I'm not sure what the narrative is unless they just want to. I don't know. But we'll see. According to, and comes to us from HeadlineUSA.com, J6 committee members sought sexual favors with the star witness, Cassidy Hutchison. Okay, I did not have this on my bingo card. According to Ken Silva over at Headline USA, last month, Breitbart News reported that House Speaker Mike Johnson blocked GOP investigators from subpoenaing Cassidy Hutchison, who was the Democrat-controlled January 6th Commission's star witness in the wake of January 6th, 2021. At the time, it wasn't clear why Johnson was protecting Hutchison, who was caught changing her testimony during the course of the January 6th committee hearings. On Thursday, the Washington Post revealed what may have motivated Johnson. He might have been protecting some of his peers, some of his buddies, yes, even on the Democrat side, unless they were talking about Adam Kinzinger, which is definitely possible, but who cares? According to the Post, an aide to Johnson blocked the subpoena to prevent the release of sexually explicit texts that lawmakers sent to Hutchison. I mean, this is real life, folks. And are you shocked? Are you shocked that a member or multiple members, apparently, of Congress who are sitting on the J6 committee, which was all Democrats plus the two rhinos, that members of that committee, lawmakers, were sending texts to Cassidy Hutchison? I mean, she's a relatively attractive girl. Okay, fine. But still, if you're in Congress, you got this star witness, probably not the best time to ask for, or the best person to ask for sexual favors. Now, to her discredit, because she should have exposed them, to her discredit, she didn't say anything. But now the Washington Post is coming out with some information. According to the report from the Washington Post, multiple colleagues had raised concerns with the Speaker's office about the potential for public disclosure of sexual texts from members, plural, who were trying to engage in sexual favors with Hutchison. Separately, a member of Johnson's staff said that Hutchison could potentially reveal embarrassing information. Oh gosh, I can't believe this is America in 2025. Johnson has launched another investigation into January 6th for the new Congress, which will be headed by Representative Barry Loudermilk of Georgia, who uncovered numerous damning facts about the politicized J6 Commission over the last 2 years. An investigation into Hutchison also implicates that then January 6th Commission chair or vice chair Liz Cheney, who secretly communicated with her being Hutchison, during the proceedings and may have pressured her to fire her attorney. Big no-no. And keep in mind, Liz Cheney is an attorney, or was. So it's not like she didn't know. I mean, this is direct witness tampering. This goes to show that, and not that you need any further evidence, but this was, of course, an absolute positive show trial, and Cassidy Hutchison was just an actress. And Liz Cheney was the director or the assistant director or the screenwriter or a combination thereof. Definitely one of the executive producers. Okay? And now this stuff is coming out. I would almost argue, it's funny, if the J6 investigation were in the news more, and I'm not talking about, I'm talking specifically about the investigation into Donald Trump. If that had been in the news more, I would almost argue that this has to be a distraction. But this is bringing it up sort of out of the blue. So I don't know. I think that there might be some validity, even though it came from WAPO. Loudermilk and the Oversight Subcommittee have recommended that the FBI investigate Cheney for potential witness tampering charges. And he said, as I had noted earlier, as a licensed attorney, Liz Cheney would have known the ethical and legal issues with this communication. Clearly, Cheney did not want Stephen Passantino representing Hutchison, as shortly after Cheney and Hutchison began communicating, Cheney convinced Hutchison to fire Passantino and arranged for her to meet for a new attorney to represent Hutchison pro bono. I don't know if there are ways. Some people are saying there's ways to get Liz Cheney, legally speaking. They keep talking, Congress is going to subpoena them. Oh. You know what a congressional subpoena really is? I mean, let's just call it what it is. A congressional subpoena is a get-out-of-jail-free card. You might say, what do you mean? Well, it's because the only people that ever go to jail who receive a congressional subpoena are the people that don't abide by the subpoena, such as Dr. Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. They denied the subpoenas, and they went to jail for it. Anybody else who goes and faces Congress, who abides by the subpoenas, they don't go to jail. I mean, their punishment is, okay, so you're going to have to sit in that chair for a few hours. Okay? You're going to have to sit there and take it while all the people on the panel, we're going to record campaign promos. We're going to record sound bites by either attacking you if we don't like you or defending you if we like you. That's what happens in Congress during these hearings. And you will remember this day for at least the rest of the week, because it's going to be brutal. You're going to be so chastised publicly. It's going to be, I don't know how you're going to recover, except after a day or two when it disappears from the news cycle and nobody remembers it at all. Because that's what always happens. The only people that go to jail are those who don't abide by the subpoena. So in other words, if you get a subpoena, it is a get out of jail free card. You will not go to jail if you show up. Disgusts me if you couldn't tell. Let's take a short break. Wow. 45 minutes without a break. Not bad. I'm trying to minimize during my morning show, my Frank Speech show. I have to do breaks every like 15 to 20 minutes, and it bugs me to death. I don't like doing so many breaks. But for the live show, I might go an hour without a break. And I could do this all day. I'm Captain America, man. I don't have to. As long as I use the bathroom ahead of time, as long as I've got at least one iced coffee and one iced Celsius and one hot coffee. Between the three, I should be able to stay fully alert and only a little bit jittery. So let's take a short break. When we get back, we'll talk about some more fun stuff.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only...
Totally screwed that up, didn't I? I did. Sorry, Mike Lindell. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was like, hey, why don't we rearrange some of this stuff? And then, oh wait, if I rearrange it, then that's gonna crap. Crap. Yes, real Drew Morgan says it's a liquid diet. It is. And it's still on screen. Let me move that out of the way. It is basically a liquid diet. I mean, I do eat. Okay. For those who can't see full screen, or maybe if you're just listening and not watching, I am a robust gentleman. I am a gentleman of size. And for a little while now, I've been working my way down in weight. And I've been doing this by, on one hand, I do the ketogenic diet. I don't eat very many carbs at all. I mean, I keep it actually lower than most people who are on the keto diet. No rice, no bread. Well, I got fake bread. It's not fake. It's actually pretty good. I gotten used to it, I guess. But mostly I just eat fresh organic meat and fresh locally grown vegetables, certain vegetables that I'm allowed to eat. And that's pretty much it. Eggs, lots of eggs, which I don't know much longer I'll be able to do that with egg prices going up the way they are. And then I try to work out a little bit every day. And I'm going to get more and more. And we're going to have a super lean and very strong version of the Rucker here in hopefully the next few months. But yes, part of that diet is that I do, for the sake of having a proper fat content, I do use heavy cream and lots of liquid. I drink a lot of coffee every day from morning until evening throughout the day. And I always have. That's not something with the diet. I've been drinking coffee morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and night since I was, probably in my teens, at the latest in my early 20s. I mean, I've just always have. I've always been a not get a lot of sleeper kind of guy. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, if you're going to be healthy, you got to get plenty of sleep. I get it. Okay, maybe if we get a few more sponsors, I can start sleeping more. In the meantime, I got to work. We got a nation to save. I got a family to feed. Let's get to it. So, but I appreciate it. Yes, it is very liquidy. So earlier during the morning show, I did a segment that it got very popular. Not the segment itself during Frank's speech, but we posted it on other channels, posted it on X, posted it up on the Liberty Daily's Rumble channel, and people were really digging it. And for obvious reasons, you'll see. This is one of those stories, you can classify it as you can't make this stuff up. Okay. I'm just going to play it. No need to set it up. I'm just going to play this. A caseworker who helps Afghan refugees assimilate into American life was stabbed multiple times at his home by an Afghan refugee. I remember there was a story a few years back. It's been a while, and I don't remember the full details, but basically, the way that there was an NGO, and they were working at refugee camps, and I don't recall if it was an American or I think it was a British woman who was helping the refugees. She ended up getting attacked and raped, and she was encouraged by her peers, the people around her, not to report it. They didn't want that narrative out there. They didn't want it to seem as if refugees could possibly be bad people. And I'm not suggesting that all refugees are bad people. There are a lot of refugees who are just in bad situations. But a lot of them are. A lot of them take advantage of refugee situations to get to places where they can then commit crimes, do their thing. And I think this is one of those instances, which is why I'm all in favor of helping people, okay? But help them elsewhere. I know that sounds kind of callous, but it's true. Why do we have to bring them to the United States? Why can't we help them in other areas, especially considering how much land, how much space is available in the Middle East, how much money is flowing through the Middle East? Why does it always have to be, okay, well, here's an Afghan refugee. Why do they have to come here? Or any refugee, for that matter. I'm not just talking about the Middle East. Any refugee from anywhere. Why do we have to bring them here? What is the purpose? When they have places that are much closer to them culturally, it's oftentimes a perfect match. It's like they can integrate into a society that they already know, a society that can and should embrace them. I would much rather, not that I want to spend any money on American money on that, but hey, we're doing it anyway. If we're going to spend money, let's spend money to help them there, not here. Okay? I mean, maybe I'm just crazy, but then again, maybe I'm not. Here's a story.
A terrifying ordeal for a caseworker who helps refugees from Afghanistan get resettled into Michigan. Investigators in Oakland County say he was attacked in his own home in Orion Township Wednesday.
Well, it's terrible. I mean, obviously the person is trying to do their job, which is to help that person assimilate, and for whatever reason, this is the reaction he got.
Sheriff Mike Bouchard says a refugee helped by the caseworker somehow tracked down the caseworker's home address on Red Root Road, showed up, and stabbed them repeatedly, putting the victim in the hospital in critical condition.
We don't know specifically what his complaint was or his motive was, because the individual that was attacked is in surgery.
It's sad, it's tragic, it's everything, but it's also, unfortunately, not surprising at all. It's weird, that one was a little bit shorter, so I was only able to get one story up at thelibertydaily.com, which is fine, except that it's generally speaking, this is the more calm part of the evening. Obviously, it's later, it's almost 11 o'clock. Eastern time, and so a lot of the news outlets will start to go dark. But I've noticed, not just today, but also the last couple of days, there's been more and more late afternoon, late evening stories coming through, and today is no exception. There seems to be that there's a lot of, I think this is indicative of the shift that's happening in media, not just legacy media, but also in independent media. Even many of the conservative sites out there that have generally stopped working at like 5 p.m. I'm seeing a lot more 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. stories coming through. And it's not always just breaking news either. Is this the shift that we need? I think so. I think this is a good thing, by the way, to be clear. I'm not a big fan of journalism from 9 to 5. Okay? Things happen. And for me, when back in the days, there was a time when I was running just a solo news site, and I was doing about 70-80% of the writing for it, and I would report the news during the day, and then in the evening I would do my analyses. I would do commentary, and that was I think that worked. I think it worked out very well for me because the site did well. We were getting a couple million visitors a month, nothing huge, but enough to make it worthwhile. And Yeah, it was, it felt like the right way to do it. But we're actually seeing a lot of news that's popping even late in the evening. Some of these articles that have been coming in. I'll go to my feed real quick. Let me see if I can pull that up without it being too. I don't know if it'll work on the screen very well. Let's try it though. Yeah, you can't see that, can you? Well, let me extend it out, get it right up to my face, right there. But you'll get to see. I mean, we've got sort of daily callers putting something up. John Solomon over at Just the News talking about. Sometimes his stuff is a little. I mean, he's very good at. Yeah, we're going to actually talk about this story later. Not that particular one, but he will sometimes be a little late to the game, not because he's a bad journalist, but because he's a great journalist, and he likes to make sure that if he's going to post something, it's going to be legit. He's one of the few on the conservative side that still gets good marks from the fascists at like NewsGuard and places like that. You got him, you've got Todd Starnes, and then you've got people like me or the Gateway Pundit. You know, it's like oh, there's news, blast it out there. You know, it's like just it's probably right, sounds right. Let's go for it. Yeah. It's not always the best approach to the news, but it is what we've got. Let's go to a little. I wouldn't say older story, but this is a story from earlier today that did catch my attention. Hopefully, I don't know if I didn't save the video. Son of a gun. I'll leave a link to it. I want you to watch the video itself too. That's associated with it. Let's get that picture of Hunter Biden right there. I want you to watch the video associated with it. It's just a 2.5 minute interview, but it's very telling. But the story tells most of the story. Story tells the story. Get it? Harold Hutchison over at Daily Caller News Foundation, DCNF. They put this story together. We have it cross-posted with permission over at thelibertydaily.com. It says, don't write about the laptop. Former reporters reveal how Politico shot down negative stories about the Biden crime family. And this is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the story because there's nothing shocking about this. Oh my gosh, you mean left-leaning Politico said not to write about the Hunter Biden story? It's not exactly shocking news, but it's ugly because Politico, there's the obvious radical left-wingers, right? And they don't care. The truth is they don't even pretend to speak the truth. The MSNBCs of the world, for example, The Nation, places like that. BuzzFeed, is BuzzFeed even still around? I don't know. Are they still doing memes? They're still trying to do news? I don't know. I don't pay attention to them. But Politico has generally been one of those ones that, even though it is definitely left-leaning, they've tried to, at least I thought, they were trying to adhere to journalistic standards. And apparently I was wrong. So, because this one, that's why I pulled up the story, is because it was sort of annoying to find out that they were stifling stories just because they would have hurt Joe Biden's chances in 2020. According to the article, 2 former reporters with Politico accused the outlet of suppressing negative stories about former President Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, during the 2020 presidential election in a video clip posted to YouTube Thursday. Dozens of former intelligence officials signed an October 2020 letter published by Politico that claimed a bombshell New York Post story report about the emails from a laptop supposedly abandoned by Hunter Biden, quote, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. Puck News reporter Tara Palmieri and Axios reporter Mark Caputo discussed the Politico newsroom's alleged approach to unflattering reports about the Bidens and Palmieri's podcast, or on Palmieri's podcast, Somebody's Gotta Win. Yeah. And he said Politico did the terrible, ill-fated headline, 51 intelligence agents or former intelligence agents say the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation or bore the hallmarks of disinformation. Turns out that the story was actually closer to disinformation because the Hunter Biden laptop appears to be true. But then Facebook also pulled all stories down and the Hunter Biden laptop, and I think Twitter did the same thing at the time too, and they did actually. Twitter was first. This was the pre-Elon Musk Twitter. They were the first to pull it down. And yes, the New York Post story was absolutely fantastic. I actually got to interview Miranda Devine, and I think we're going to get to interview her again here in the very near future. about that because I mean, they did their due diligence. They didn't just they didn't act like Rucker or or Gateway Pundit. It's like grab it, publish it. No, they explored it. They tried to determine, is this real? They came to the conclusion, which in retrospect it seems very obvious that it was real. But they actually tried to determine if it was Russian disinformation. Now, of course, and you have like James Clapper out there saying, well, we didn't say that it was disinformation. We said it had the hallmarks of disinformation. That's why we shouldn't be in trouble. Well, they're in trouble. President Trump pulled their security clearance as should have been done 4 or 5 years ago. These are people that probably should never have had security clearance in the first place. They are despicable, evil, and clearly anti-American. But hey, at least we're getting it fixed now, right? Point being is that when you have an organization, even like Politico, that's supposed to be one of the not so horrible guys out there, acting horribly, saying that something is disinformation or misinformation when they are at that point spreading disinformation. They're by calling something else that's clearly true, by calling that disinformation, they're the ones that are spreading the disinformation. And that seems to be kind of the modus operandi right now, which is why legacy media is dying. It's not dead by any means. It is dying. What about Jim Acosta? I'm not going to play it. Am I going to play it? I don't think I even saved it. I did not. I did not save it. It was funny, but there was nothing. It was basically, that Sarah McLachlan song. It's got that playing, and it's talking about how Jim Acosta is super sad. He's so amazing, such an incredible journalist, at least in his own mind. Well, apparently he might be out at CNN. He might be quitting in protest because they want to move him to the 2 a.m. slot. I'm sorry. I mean, it's bad enough to be at CNN, but to be at CNN and then relegated to the 2 a.m. slot, wow. Well, he's insulted, and there are rumors that he's actually going to quit, at which point, I guess, what's left for him? MSNBC? I think that's the only place he can go. He doesn't have the credibility of somebody like a Chris Cuomo to be able to go to like a News Nation or anything like that. And for those who don't recall, yes, I know Chris Cuomo's a lefty, and I know that he was anti-Trump, and I know that he was pro anti-ivermectin, anti-hydroxychloroquine. He's done some horrible things during his time at CNN. Plus, he's a Cuomo. Okay, I've called him Fredo many times. With that said, over the last year or so, ever since he's been over at News Nation, ever since he's had, I wouldn't say he hasn't been red-pilled by any means, but he's become more open, I guess, to rational thoughts. I actually kind of like him. And when I say that, what I'm really saying is I no longer despise him, which I guess is the best that we can expect when it comes to my opinion of somebody like a Chris Cuomo. We did, thankfully, praise God. Is it too early? Let me see. Is it? It is. We'll get to that in a minute. There's not too early to praise God. It's never too early or too late, to be clear, to praise God for anything in our lives, whether it's good, bad, or nothing at all. We should be down on our knees, reading our Bibles, fasting. That's a practice that I think is not practiced nearly enough in the United States of America anymore. Not as much as it should be. But with that said, I'm on early morning time, right? I'm on my, it's been 15 minutes. I better go to break. Nope. We're on the live show. I don't have to go to break at any point. I can just keep going. Speaking of keeping going, there was the executive order against affirmative action that President Trump signed. There's been a lot of really false information. I actually, thankfully, we've actually been able to see some people come out and fight the false information. I'm a constitutional scholar and I say that it's unconstitutional to do this, that. No. It's just an executive order reversing another executive order. It's not unconstitutional at all. And I don't think that this is one of those ones where they're not going to be able to stop it or even slow it down in the courts. Birthright citizenship, that got halted today by a federal judge, at least temporarily. So that was always going to be iffy. But affirmative action, President Trump is there's nothing they can do to reverse what he's doing. With that said, we do have to dispel the fake rumors that are out there. And I think this gentleman, I believe he's on TikTok, this TikTok gentleman did an excellent job of doing just that.
Okay, so this headline has been going viral for about the past day or so, and people are understandably upset and reasonably asking questions, so let's talk about it. First and foremost, there are a few things that people need to understand. Number one, your protections against discrimination, specifically in the workplace, did not start in 1965 through an executive order by the president, nor did they stop being modified in 1965 by the same executive order. So where do they come from? Your protections against discrimination in the workplace are either constitutionally based or they come from legislation passed by Congress. Notice neither one of those two things mentioned an executive order from the president. So where's the confusion? Let me explain it. Federal discrimination acts like Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 already prohibits employers from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, sexuality, a number of things. And that's only been modified throughout the court system over the years to include things like age and disabilities. So if all of that came from the Constitution and federal discrimination acts passed by Congress, what did this executive order actually talk about? This executive order basically mandates that federal contractors and federal contractors only have to have affirmative action programs in place in order to keep their federal contracts. This doesn't mean that now that this is revoked, that these same companies can start going out and discriminating on who they choose to and not to hire, because that's federal law. That's part of the Constitution. That has already been decided by the courts that it's illegal. So no, this has nothing to do with that. But you can expect to see a lot more misleading headlines like this because companies and people and blogs get paid to post stuff like this in order to stoke division.
Not bad. Not bad. Very, very well spoken and very clear. Clear and concise. That's what we like in media. And what we're finding is that so many people on the left, especially these TikTok influencers, YouTube influencers, their attacks, it's not like they're making logical attacks. Generally speaking, they're wrong. It's not just a difference of opinion. They're factually incorrect, especially as it pertains to the actions that President Trump has been taking. You know, they don't get it. Not on everything. I mean, I can see, look, I understand the legal objections to President Trump's executive order regarding birthright citizenship. I agree with President Trump on it, to be clear. Okay, I'm not suggesting that he's wrong. I'm saying that I can understand how this is going to have some legal challenges. And there's going to be other things that he does. He's going to get hit hard, with the new version of lawfare. Old lawfare, go after Trump and his allies. New lawfare, since he won, is now go after his actions. That's what they're going to try to do. But I would argue, and I almost didn't cover this story at all because I don't want to give the game away, but I would argue that President Trump and his team are doing one of the most brilliant moves I've seen in a long time when it comes to countering lawfare. By putting out executive orders in so many of them so early on, I think what they're doing, is they're trying to flood the zone. Basically, you've only have a certain number. It feels unlimited, but it's not. You only have a certain number of groups, a certain number of lawyers, a certain number of people funding them that can go after, who can attack President Trump's executive orders, who can challenge them in a court of law. And every time they do, doing this, it costs money, and it costs manpower, it costs time. And I would argue that the idea here is, hey, we've got an executive order. It'll probably get overturned. It'll probably be shut down in the courts. Throw it out there anyway. Make them being the leftist lawfare trolls, make them work for it. Just because it'll probably get reversed, it's not like this is going to be politically damaging, and prevent Trump from winning a third term. Because again, chances are, I like Andy Ogles. I like where his heart's at. Okay, but I don't think he's going to be able to get his law passed and get Trump a third term. So why not make them spend their money, their capital, their resources, their assets, their time, their energy. Make them sue Trump 500 times a month. Just keep busting out with every executive order you could think of. And then make them work to have that executive order reversed, because they're not going to be able to get to all of them. And the ones that he really wants to keep, that's where he focuses on. I mean, I know what you might be thinking. You're probably not thinking this, but it crossed my mind. It's like, well, the only bad part there is that that's going to be more taxpayer dollars spent on fighting the lawfare. And I get it. It's true. But I'm kind of okay with it. I really am. Not because I like wasting money, because I think that it would be sort of a waste. But then on the other hand, we're wasting more of theirs than we're wasting of ours. It's almost like, flooding them with paperwork, right? I like it. I think that that's the strategy they're employing, and I think it's clearly working, because you got a whole lot of lawsuits already flying out there. Oh, goodness. Let's get, I haven't been doing, and I did receive a complaint the other day. 2 days ago. I received a complaint. People reached out to me, and you can always reach out to me, and you can complain all you want. You can give me your feedback, advice, make recommendations, kudos, whatever you want. You can reach out to me directly by going to jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk, or you can hit me up on X at JD Rucker. I have open DMs, so I don't have to be following you for you to direct message me. Now, to be warned, I get a lot of direct messages every day because I've got open DMs. A lot of people calling me a lot of weird names, and there's also a lot of people saying, "Hey, sugar, you look cute." Because, who wouldn't think that, right? Anyway, I'm a magnet, baby. All right, so, but the complaint that I got a couple days ago is that I said I was going to focus less on politics, more on conspiracy theories, more on faith. And obviously, since the inauguration, I've spent more time on politics. I think rightly so, temporarily. And but I haven't done much about faith. So let's get to one. And this is one. It's not even me. This is somebody else. This is Russell Brand and Laura Logan. Okay, Russell Brand is what we call a baby Christian. He's new to the faith, but he's trying real hard. I admire him. I won't just appreciate it. I admire his efforts. He really is trying to dive into his faith and to express it and expose it. And he does have a pretty strong audience. But between him and Laura Logan, they're talking to Neil Oliver. For those who don't know Neil Oliver, he's the closest you can come to a true modern day Scottish philosopher. Okay, I mean he is a philosopher for sure. You could see his reports over at GB News, almost always very, very telling, very intellectual. He's very much against, for example, the New World Order. He doesn't call it the New World Order, but that's what he's fighting. He's fighting against globalism. He's fighting against governments stealing our freedoms. He's fighting against vaccine mandates. He was fighting against everything, the expansion of the money supply, inflation. This guy's a warrior. He's an intellectual warrior. But when it comes to the faith, he is challenged. And here in this clip, you'll see both Russell Brand and Laura Logan pushing him a bit, just getting him to come to his own conclusions based upon his understanding. And I've always said, and not just said, I know this for a fact, that when you have people who are what's the word for it? I don't want to just say atheist. We'll say skeptical. They could be atheist. They could be agnostic. They could be, maybe turned off by the church or by religion or religiosity, or for whatever reason, they're not Bible-believing Christians, nor are they any other practiced religion, at least that they know of. And I've always said that those people, the ones that are easiest to help to change their hearts and minds, are those who are very, very intelligent. And I think that Neil Oliver qualifies. So here is Neil Oliver doing most of the talking, but you got Russell Brand and Laura Logan kind of saying, yes, and, oh, you're so close, brother. Yeah. Watch this.
It's important it's simple, it's easy to grasp this stuff. Statute, legislation, the stuff that parliaments or Congress, these documents that they write, these millions of pages of legislation that they come up with and empower themselves to pass, are just so much confetti in the wind. They're just workarounds. They're just powerful people putting in writing the workarounds that let them do what they wanted to do in the first place. That's statute. That's all that man-made stuff. Every child knows the law. It's right and wrong.
That's right.
Everyone know you know without
But what is it? Where's that coming from then? Where's that coming from?
The law.
Coming from God.
Whether you're even it's older than any religion. The law.
It's God. It's God.
The law just is.
It's not the law. It's God. It's God, Neil.
He does crack me up, even if you dislike him. Okay, even if you're maybe you're not buying it, maybe you just think he's too obnoxious. Russell Brand does crack me up. He seems to be. He is smart. He's very smart. That's for sure. And he's a pretty decent talker. He's got a very crude past, but a lot of us do. So I am probably more forgiving of him than I am of a lot of other people. Let's see. Do we have time for I'll get to the central bank digital currency story after. You know what? Instead of doing a break, let's do something a little bit different. Let's pull up this story here. There we go. This is a sponsored post that we have over at AmericaFirstReport.com. We picked up a new sponsor. Praise God for that. And it's one that I'll admit, I want to say up front, I'm skeptical for two reasons. Let me take their thing off the screen before I say it. Obviously, I'm skeptical about artificial intelligence. I think I've made that clear. I'm also not so much. I'm not skeptical about cryptocurrencies. I'm skeptical about what the powers that be, are going to do in the long term with cryptocurrencies. Now, we did have President Trump today. He signed a sweeping cryptocurrency bill that included banning central bank digital currencies, and we're going to talk about that. And that is one of the risks that I always said, hey, they're going to do the switcheroo on us. They're going to get everybody onto Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then they're going to crash those and make us adopt the digital dollar or the digital ruby or whatever. They're going to pull the switcheroo on us, which I think is still possible, but at least for now, we are covered. And that's one of the let me put it this way. This sponsor that I'm about to pull up, zero chance I would have taken them on as a sponsor if President Trump had lost. If Kamala Harris was in office, I would be running away as fast as I could from cryptocurrency. But it seems as if President Trump himself, as well as the people surrounding him, David Sachs, new AI and crypto czar, he's surrounding himself with people that are very pro-crypto and embracing the crypto revolution. So with that said, I'm ready to at least look into it. And maybe many of you are ready too, but there's a learning curve, okay? There is a learning curve when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And so I would encourage you, find this story. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can find this story over at AmericaFirstReport.com and read it. But if you want to learn more about Block Trust IRA, which they can help you with, whether you're making a cash purchase, you want to roll over your IRA or your 401k or whatever retirement account you have instead of having it in the stock market, which they're saying could burst at any time, if you want to have your retirement backed by cryptocurrencies, then this is by far the best way to do it. Go to JDR Crypto, jdrcrypto.com. Fill out the form. It says create a free account, but I went to do that. I created a free account, and then it just said, we'll call you. So it's not like, oh my gosh, you create a free account. Give us your social security number and your address and your height and your weight. No. They just want your name. They'll contact you. And as it says up top, invest like a crypto expert, even if you're a novice. That is obviously very appealing to me, especially because, I have done my own research. I own cryptocurrencies. Well, technically speaking, personal TMI. I am not a crypto expert, and I've done enough research to realize that I'm not a crypto expert. But this company is. They've used this award-winning platform. They literally won, the 2023 Bitcoin Magazine award for the best crypto platform. Okay, and this wasn't like, let's just dish out some blue ribbons. No, they had this conference in Amsterdam, right? They had hundreds of, I think thousands, either hundreds or thousands of crypto companies out there that were supposed to go through these trials and test out their platform. And this company here, they were the winners in 2023. And they weren't just winners, oh, here's your trophy. They were winners of $1 million seed money to further develop this. Well, they initially went into the hedge funds. They went into went to hedge fund managers, and said, "Hey, here's our platform." They let them use it, and they loved it. And so, upon President Trump's upon his victory, that's when they went ahead and launched it, available to you and me. Okay, so go to jdrcrypto.com and let them do their thing. Low trading fees, powered by AI. It's a crypto trading fund, tax-free investing, top-tier security. Oh, you can check it out. It's good stuff. And I have met this guy, by the way. So I went to dinner. It was December. No, it was last month. I went to dinner. I'd spoken to him before, but I actually got to meet him at a restaurant in Beverly Hills, of course, because, I wasn't paying. But I got to meet him at a restaurant, and we got to talk about this stuff for a long time. And he really did. I'm skeptical. I am. I'm skeptical of AI. I'm skeptical of cryptocurrencies. Not because of what they are, but because of what they can be used for. But he put my mind at ease. Max did. So I would strongly encourage you to go to jdrcrypto.com and reach out if you've got a retirement account, you've got cash, money in the stock market that you want to put into crypto, but you don't want to have to go through and learn everything about it. You just let it's an AI algorithm that checks on like social signals and stuff like that, and determines, when is it going to go up, when is it going to go down, but it's still human driven. In other words, there's still people. The people are the ones that are making the decisions. They just use the data that's collected through artificial intelligence. It's a very slick program. Like I said, they put my mind at ease, at least as much as my mind can be at ease when it comes to this kind of stuff. Yeah. So with that, let's go to an anti-AI story. That's a perfect segue to talk about China's AI. We've already got it bad enough, right? With ChatGPT and Google, and everybody's doing their thing. Sam Altman, even Elon Musk is ripping on Altman for getting with Trump, and there's all sorts of, it's all drama. It's all just drama, right? Well, now we got to throw China into the mix. According to this article, which is by Finn Hartley over at Natural News, we have a cross-posted with permission over at thelibertydaily.com. AI revolution takes center stage as China's DeepSeek R1 model demonstrates advanced reasoning capabilities. Now, I had actually heard about this for the first time yesterday. I was watching a video. I do a lot of research on artificial intelligence, and I was watching a video describing this to me and why. And they were, to be clear, they were touting it. This video that I was watching, they were like, "Oh, forget ChatGPT. This is the model. This is the right one. It's free. It's all blah 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 blah." Maybe it is. We'll see. According to the article, DeepSeek R1, a 671 billion parameter AI reasoning model developed by a Chinese company, has stunned experts with its ability to solve complex problems from thermal calculations to policy recommendations, sparking excitement and concern. The model's open source nature and a distilled 14 billion parameter version make it accessible on consumer grade hardware, enabling global developers to explore its advanced reasoning capabilities. DeepSeek R1 excels in diverse fields such as herbal medicine, optimizing solvent mixtures, and energy-efficient infrastructure planning, showcasing its potential to revolutionize industries and empower individuals. Again, when it comes to AI, it's always about a sales pitch anymore. It's always put your mind at ease. Don't look for any of the negatives. Don't just sign on the dotted line. Just comply. Yeah. I'm concerned. Anyway, critics warn of risks like reduced human oversight in decision making, while proponents highlight AI's potential to bring fairness and efficiency to governance, including unbiased judicial rulings. Really? You want an AI judge saying whether you're guilty or you're innocent, or you have to pay this much or you don't have to pay that much? I know some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, that might not be a bad idea. That's how they get us. They sell us on these ideas. They show us the best scenarios, and then they're going to pull the rug out from under us. China's open source approach with DeepSeek R1 contrasts with the U.S.'s corporate-controlled models, reshaping the AI landscape and sparking debates on democratization, innovation, and global power dynamics. I'm not going to read the whole article. I just wanted you to be aware, to start looking in, and we will. To be clear, I'm new to this. Okay, new to this particular model. I've been what's the word for it? Researching ChatGPT, Grok, Google Gemini. I've been researching the domestic models for a long time. This is my first, or will be. I haven't tried it yet, but this will be my first experience with the Chinese version. And so I will do a full-blown report at some point in the near future, but I will leave the notes, or I will leave the link in the show notes so that you can go check this out for yourself. Another future show that I will be doing very soon, I was going to do it today, but then it was just a absolutely mind-boggling news day. I've still got like 15 stories to get to. It was a huge news day, so I didn't get to it. But at some point in the near future, based on the recommendation, somebody here in I know they reached out to me through my X, as a matter of fact, open DMs. Based on that recommendation, I'm going to be doing a prepper show, so to speak. And it's not about, here's how you properly seal your buckets of rice. It's not going to be about that. It's going to be more general, more, we'll call it intellectual experimentation. We're going to talk about the things that we need to do, we need to have ready, to be prepared for. And not all of it is going to be, guns, ammunition, and meds. Okay? It's going to go beyond that. It'll go beyond the obvious. Okay? And then we'll dive into, for example, skills that we're going to need. Skills that we need to not just survive, but also to be able to thrive, to be able to see perhaps into a future where we are part of the group that's going to help to rebuild America should America fall. Things like that. So that show is coming very soon. Probably not tomorrow because I already have plans for tomorrow's show, but most likely next week we will be talking about all of that stuff. So earlier today, President Trump was he was in America, but he was broadcasting to Davos, to the World Economic Forum. And I remember I saw a lot of people like, what is Trump doing talking to the World Economic Forum? Well, if you watch it, you'll understand why. He didn't go there so that he could be sold to. He went there to lambast people. And here's a short clip of him lambasting Saudi Arabia and basically blaming them for the war in Ukraine.
And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent, for what's taking place. Millions of lives are.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong in that regard. Now, I do disagree with him. I know that he's good friends with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, really of the Middle East. And yeah, I get it, but I don't get it because he doesn't like us. He doesn't want to work with us. I know they're going to invest $600 billion. Trump's pushing for $1 trillion. Yeah, might as well just round it up to a flat trillion. I love that. That's great. But it is an investment. None of these investments that you're seeing, they're investing in the idea of Trump. Okay, they're investing in the idea that the United States can and will return to its position of exceptionalism and become a good investment. Once again, that's what they're banking on. But don't think that they're banking on it in an effort to help us. They're banking on it in an effort to help themselves. They just see, hey, the U.S. hit rock bottom after 4 years under Biden-Harris. Now with Trump back, it's gonna bounce back up. Might as well invest, turn $600 billion into $6 trillion. It's definitely possible. They could see that level of return. Any of these investors do. They're not trying to help us. They're trying to ride the wave, hop on the train, ride the coattails, whatever you want to call it. It's self-serving, and that doesn't hurt us. I mean, the motives don't matter. I don't care as long as they're investing. That's good. But I shouldn't say as long as they're investing, that's good. There's the potential for good, but there's also the potential for bad, because whenever you have those sums of money coming in, there are certain expectations. There's lobbying that's done. There's laws that end up getting passed, often in the dead of night, often without any fanfare. There's changes that are made in Washington, D.C., as well as in local governments, state governments. So we have to be very, very watchful. Don't just assume, okay? Do not just assume that just because President Trump embraces something or endorses something or accepts investments into the United States, don't assume that that's going to be necessarily a good thing. We have to be mindful. We have to watch what's going on, just as he and his team have to do the same thing. We have to remain diligent through all of this. Speaking of Davos, I ran a clip earlier today during the Frank Speech show. I keep saying Frank Speech. It's rebranding, by the way. It's Lindell TV. Currently it's called Frank Speech Lindell TV. But it's actually, let's just call it what it is. It's supposed to be called Lindell TV. All right? Got that? And I understand why, and I can't explain why. So I'm not even going to try. But yeah, so I was talking about Davos, and this was the first time that something was actually said at Davos that I agreed with. I know. It's you just take one step, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm going to be at the Bilderbergers group and chanting, and I'm going to be promoting globalists and joining the New World Order. I'm close. I already did my first step by agreeing with something they did there. There's a reason I actually agree with UN Climate Advisor Fatao Zheng from at the World Economic Forum's Davos globalist meeting. I actually agree with something that she said. I'm shocked. I don't know if I've ever agreed with anything they've said at Davos, but this time I do. See if you agree. Watch.
Just to pick up on that drill, baby, drill, I'm actually also very concerned about Trump's decision to pull out of Paris Agreement. So my question is for the United Nations mainly, but also for the other people here. What is the world going to do now? Because it may be even more serious than the first time when he tried to pull out of the Paris Agreement. How should we react? Thank you.
That's you. You want to go? Yeah.
I mean, we should all obviously react because it's something that's very worrying, seeing how US is one of the major emitters and obviously should be one of the countries that should put a lot more in loss and damage and adaptation. And it's really worrying seeing the trajectory because when he was president, they left the Paris Agreement. So from an individual perspective, I actually saw this coming because he did it again, he will obviously do it again. So I really hope to see, especially major emitting countries, really taking more responsibilities and efforts because we can't really allow just one country to dictate how we are supposed to approach the climate crisis.
Did you catch it? Yes, of course you did. She said that not one country needs to be dictating what they do with climate change. Hey, great. Awesome. She said that other heavy emitters should contribute more. Great. You know who the heaviest emitters are, of course. That would be China and India. And they need to contribute more if there's going to be, anything that has to do with climate change. Why do we always have to take the biggest chunk of anything? And in this case, with climate change, why do we have to take any chunk? The answer is we don't. We don't have to contribute a penny to their multi-billion, trillion, quadrillion dollar fantasy, their hoax. We don't have to participate, and we're not going to. Praise God for that. But if they can get China and India and anybody else to step up and blow their money on trying to be clear, they're not even trying to quote unquote reverse climate change. This is all about developing in Africa. This is about I actually don't even know. Yeah, I had covered this. This has been 2 or 3 years ago. I'd covered the climate, the Paris Climate Accords or whatever they're called, and highlighted how even they don't seem to know what they want to do. It's a virtue signaling exercise, but it's a very expensive virtue signaling exercise, and we don't need to be any part of it. But hey, if they can get China and India to participate and to get in more money, and they can get money from other nations other than us, who am I to stop them? There it is. That's my first step to globalism, agreeing with the UN's climate cultist leader, spokesperson, whatever. I might as well just go to Davos now. Honey, pack my bags. We're going to Davos. Okay, so I'm not going to Davos, but you get the idea. Speaking of preparation, I know that I jumped around a little bit too much there. Speaking of preparation, in case you are wanting to prepare, we are super excited over at prepperfarms.com. Super excited that we've picked up a few other organizations that are working with us now, that are promoting our products. We got the Hodge twins on board. They tried the beef. They said, "Oh my gosh, this is." Well, I can't repeat what they said, but they liked it. Got Alex Jones, InfoWars store, now promoting our beef, our long-term storage beef. It's all American, 25-year shelf life, good stuff. So I'm going to play that ad now. Be sure to use promo code JDR as an owner of the company. I have the best promo codes. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. What you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025, we have gone back to the original ownership structure, and I'm very excited about that because that puts me finally back more in charge. And I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company, that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. We do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high-quality, all-American, all-Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. I have to remember to put the swoosh in there. I'm not swooshing nearly enough, and that's unfortunate. Checking on, I sometimes forget to check on the chat, and I apologize for that because we're on Getter. We're on BitChute, we're on YouTube, we're on X, we're on the various places. At some point, I'm going to figure out, and I know there's ways to do it, figure out a way to consolidate all of the chats, because individually, we don't get a whole lot of chatters. It's a little embarrassing, actually. If I'm being transparent, it's a little embarrassing because I see, these other shows out there. But I've always said, you know what? I just don't have a very talkative audience. They just don't talk a lot. That's all. No big deal. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. Just they don't like to chat. Maybe it's because I call them out every time they do. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a chatter. Let's read what they said. And the last one was liquid diet. Yes, I do drink a lot of coffee. Good coffee from one of our sponsors, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. There was a story, big story of the day. This would have been the biggest story of the day if there wasn't 2 or 3 other bigger stories. It was a big story that should have gotten a lot more attention, and I think it will get more attention tomorrow and through the weekend because I think people are really going to finally start to take notice. President Trump signs an executive order banning central bank digital currencies. This comes to us from our friends over at Infowars.com. President Trump just signed an executive order banning central bank digital currencies. His order prohibits agencies from establishing, issuing, or promoting central bank digital currencies and directs other federal agencies and departments to provide the group with recommendations about digital asset regulations that should be rescinded or modified. And there's actually, look, the loopholes for central bank digital currencies, there's like 50 of them, okay? The previous regime put in as much as they could. They've laid the groundwork for a central bank digital currency. And for those who maybe you haven't heard my description in the past, the way that this is going to go down, because it will, I mean, President Trump stopping it now, awesome. That buys us time. But it's almost inevitable. I would say that it would take something catastrophic like a nuclear war or asteroid or something like that, major EMP attack. It would take something very sorry, just noticing Mary Beck said, we are a listening and learning audience. Yes, I've always said that this audience is the most intelligent out there. I see this from the comments that I get, the replies that I get, especially in email and on X. Wow. I mean, it's like, dude, I feel special because the audience is so smart. Anyway, so with central bank digital currencies, they are their goal, if and when they are able to implement it, their goal is to set aside all of these little central bank digital currencies. All the countries will have their own version of it. Nigeria's already got one. You've got other central bank digital currencies already starting to pop up. BRICS is developing their own, trying to make it backed by gold. I mean, there's just all this push for central bank digital currencies, right? Well, the challenge there is that the challenge they've faced so far, which they are overcoming through technology, is being able to get it to communicate properly. In other words, doing the exchange, okay? If you pay with a French central bank digital currency and you're trying to buy something in Israel, with their central bank digital currency, how is that going to operate? How is that going to work? The way the current model has been set up through SWIFT and eventually through other means makes it easy for everything to basically be done in dollars. You just have the appropriate exchange. But there's nothing similar to that when it comes to CBDCs. But there will be. And what I imagine happening, if I were planning this out for the globalist elite cabal, I would get as many countries as possible, preferably all of them, to embrace their own or somebody else's central bank digital currency. Everybody's working digitally off these CBDCs, driven by blockchain, but centralized, not blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where it's decentralized. These would be centralized blockchain technologies driving central bank digital currencies. They'd be controlled, in other words. But then something bad is going to happen. There's going to be a major crash. There's going to be a major hack. There's going to be something massive, something major. And the powers that be are then going to say, oops, clearly we were on the right track, but the model was broken. We need to have one central bank digital currency to rule them all. And that is when we get into the one world economy concept. That's where we get into the ability to prevent people from buying and selling. So many risks, so many biblical prophetic concepts that can be attributed to the rise of central bank digital currencies. It's very encouraging, though, that we have President Trump doing and saying what he's doing and saying. I don't know. I mean, part of me, a big part of me, the bigger part of me, I guess, is excited that we appear to be living in the end times. The other part of me, it's almost like, man, I wish we had more time to spread the gospel, more time to prepare ourselves, prepare our families and loved ones. I know I have many loved ones who I don't think are spiritually prepared for what's to come. And that's discouraging. But on the other hand, assuming we are in the end times, that means that we are closer to going home. According to, back to the article, we'll pass that X. I'm not going to replay it. It's just, he's talking about it. Yeah, okay, yeah, we win. Okay. The title, and this is the title of the executive order, Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technology. The wide-ranging EO explicitly says CBDCs threaten the stability of the financial system, individual privacy, and the sovereignty of the United States. Correct on all three counts. Moreover, the Thursday order defines CBDCs as a form of digital money or monetary value denominated in the national unit of account that is a direct liability of the central bank. It's a very specific wording for a reason. What he did not want is for cryptocurrencies to be hampered in any way. As a matter of fact, he wanted them to be elevated, but he does not want the central banks to control them. The big difference, okay, both CBDCs and cryptocurrencies are going to run on a variation of blockchain. And they're going to seem super similar, but they are the exact opposite. One is centralized, one is decentralized. The central banks, one is centralized. They want control. They want control. And they can do that by controlling the money supply. With cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, it's decentralized. In other words, in theory, you should be able to run an entire financial ecosystem built strictly on one or more cryptocurrencies and make it in a way where privacy is maintained, where sovereignty is maintained, and where security is maintained. All three of them can be done through decentralized currencies. Now, you might ask, well, if it's so easy, why don't we do it? Because it's private, because it's secure. That's why they don't want to do it. They want control, which is why they push back against it. This is where, we are going to see a rise in cryptocurrencies, especially in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And we may see a fall, but I don't know if that's guaranteed. There's so much to watch happening in the world. But thankfully, at least for the last few weeks, last couple of months really, it's been mostly very good stuff. DC Drano, Rogan O'Handley posted on X, President Trump has signed an executive order banning CBDCs. This was going to be abused by big banks as a social credit score, where they could freeze your money for wrongthink. Huge day for freedom. And those who missed President Trump at Davos, he wasn't physically there, but in the speech to Davos, he actually called out Bank of America for telling the CEO, hey, stop debanking conservatives. So Bank of America comes out with a statement on X and I guess other places saying, we don't get into politics. We don't, debank conservatives. We've got 70 million customers and yada, yada, yada. And it was just the floodgates opened up. People were showing screenshots about how they got debanked. You had somebody pretty big. I forgot who it was. Oh, goodness. Somebody in the chat can remember. There's somebody very big actually did post that, hey, you debanked me over my political views. So stuff it. Yeah, this could be a very good thing. I really hope that it is. Because if we can't avoid it, at least for the next 3, 4, 5 years, obviously that sets the stage for 2030, which seems to be the fateful date. But at least for now, it gives us time to be able to do the things we need to do to get ready, to get our house in order, to prepare, to be ready to survive whatever it is that they throw at us. They're in the process still of trying to throw ESG at us. It's just being relabeled, renamed. And I generally agree with John Stossel, but in a segment I did this morning, I sort of disagreed with him. Just because he's saying that ESG is dead or dying, my question is it really? The end of ESG. This is an article by John Stossel, the great libertarian. posted over at dailysignal.com. Now, before I get into the article itself, let me give you a quick, I don't know if you want to call it a caveat, just a warning. ESG is not dead. It is not dying. It is not ended. It is not over. It is in the process of being rebranded. It will bounce back. This is the tactic that the left has been using for years now, decades probably. I just didn't notice it before, but now I realize what they do is if they have something they really want to latch onto, and they latch onto it obviously, but then as it starts to reveal itself as being failed, because progressive policies generally fail, once it starts to become clear that, oh, this is not doing what it's supposed to do, they pull it back and then they rebrand it and then they push it forward from a different angle. New name, new words. We saw this with the whole censorship. There was the Ministry of Truth that was being proposed, and then there was enough pushback to where they're like, okay, well, maybe we won't do it. We'll just put it on the down low for a while and then bring it right back later under a different name, but oftentimes with even the same people. So while I do appreciate what John Stossel says in this article, and I'm going to agree with 95% of it, we have to remember that it's not over. We still have to continue to fight every day against these woke policies, and this is one of the big ones, especially from a corporate perspective. According to the article, sustainability investments became popular a few years back. So-called experts said companies shouldn't just focus on profit, they should put more effort into being nice. Funds pushing ESG, or better known as environmental, social, and governance, were all the rage. Giant investment firms like BlackRock pressured companies to hire more women and minorities. CEO Larry Fink announced all investments are going to be looked through sustainability. But sustainability is a mostly meaningless word. Parnassus Investments claimed it helped meet United Nations sustainability goals of nutrition and sanitation by investing in U.S. foods and Clorox. Starbucks phased out plastic straws while adding lids that used more plastic. BP rebranded itself as Beyond Petroleum, but then they wisely mostly invested in petroleum. Former VP Al Gore made money peddling climate change hysteria. He created sustainability investment funds claiming sustainability factors actually enhance returns. But that wasn't true. His funds did enhance Al Gore's returns. He made lots of money. But over the past 3 years, his sustainable fund underperformed the stock market. Recently, the fund managers admitted that they had, quote, made investment mistakes. Most funds promoting, quote unquote, sustainable investment did worse than the market. So, why did trillions of dollars pour into such funds? According to Matt Cole, CEO of Strive Investments, it's because of pressures. Their largest clients are blue state pension funds like CalPERS and New York Pension, who put pressure on them. Adopt these agendas or you're going to lose us as your largest customer. CalPERS still bragged about mitigating climate risk and adding climate-conscious board members to Exxon's board. Former presidential climate envoy John Kerry pompously bullied banks. He said they will invest into climate-related efforts. Today, banks and even BlackRock are running from sustainability nonsense. Cole said, what you're seeing is ESG funds shuttering at record speed, and they're not apologizing. Progressives never do. But again, I cannot stress this enough. Even Larry Fink, I'm disappointed that Stossel didn't point out that Larry Fink, just I think it was about a year ago, Larry Fink came out, and well, he didn't come out, he said it sort of privately, but he said it in a shareholders meeting that, hey, ESG, I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of ESG. This is a guy that's been promoting ESG. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's finally coming to his senses. No. He was getting sick of the narratives surrounding the letters ESG, the words environmental, sustainability, and governance. He wasn't against the concept, and he still isn't against the concept. He was against the reputation. He was against the multiple news reports that continue to come out even today saying, hey, ESG funds suck. If you want to lose money, or at least not make as much money as you would otherwise, invest in ESG funds. They're terrible. You'll lose money quick. And he didn't like that. So he started talking about rebranding, and they are pulling back. BlackRock is pulling back. Other banks are pulling back. Other financial organizations are pulling back. Investment hedge funds, they're all pulling back from what has been labeled as ESG. But what we're going to see in the coming probably months, maybe a year, but I imagine it will be within the next, say, 7, 8, 9 months. We'll start to see a resurgence of these types of funds. They won't be called ESG. They'll be called something completely different. But you know what they're going to focus on? The environment, climate change. You know what else they're going to focus on? Wokeness. They're just going to call it something else. They're going to call it, instead of focusing on environmental concerns, they're going to focus on net zero investments. That's the type of rebranding that they're going to do. And that type of rebranding is going to be successful because, well, they know the reality is that they can pressure people. They have a lot of power. And generally speaking, their audience, the people that are willing to dive into that wokeness, well, they're stupid. Mary Beck in the chat says, like Jeremiah, we may need to cry out loud for them to hear, those being the loved ones who aren't there yet with us, who aren't seeing the light, understanding the Bible, understanding the tremendous gift that has been given to us by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's true. Maybe we do need to just get louder. Whether we're in the end times, like we've got weeks, months, years, or maybe we're just in the beginning of the end times. Maybe we'll make it beyond 2030. Who knows? I don't think we will. And when I say make it, I mean the world in the status quo format that it's in. I do think that the changes are already happening. I think we're going to see a lot of good, and then we might see a lot of bad. But I don't want to be the one that's out there just singing doom and gloom all the time, because again, this stuff does, in many ways, makes me happy to think that we are getting closer to the end. Because the end is really the beginning of eternity for us. So, hey, that sounds awfully nice to me. One of the big stories that's been popping up a lot over the last few days, I talked about it last week, but I think it needs to be reiterated. And there's this rumor that Barack Obama is cheating on Michelle Obama with Jennifer Aniston, and that the power couple are close to divorce. I don't know, and I don't care whether or not Jennifer Aniston is involved, but I do believe, and I said this last week, I do believe that if they are trying to set up Michelle Obama for a future run, that the best way to do that is to turn her into a victim. The best way to assure that she could make a successful presidential run in 2028 would be to have them divorce. Barack has lost a lot of credibility throughout this last election. He was already seeming to dwindle a bit in his influence over the Democrat Party. He was at one point basically their messiah. And then that shifted, that changed, especially with Kamala Harris losing, especially with Joe Biden failing so badly, especially with many of his people that were in the White House not being nearly as in control as I think a lot of Democrats thought that they were. And as a result, his stock has plummeted. If you are to believe, and I do believe this, if you are to believe that everything about the Obamas is manufactured and has been manufactured since long before he was president, that even the relationship itself was manufactured with the intention of getting at least one, if not two, presidents out of them, if you were to believe that the globalist elite cabal are using the Obamas as their proxies to be able to drive the necessary changes in America in order to take us down, then it's not inconceivable to think that these rumors, which have been allowed to persist despite them being allegedly negative for the Obamas, who knows? I mean, if Bill Clinton is can still show his face in public. If he could survive everything that he did, then certainly Barack Obama will be just fine, even if Michelle divorces him. And as far as for Michelle herself, She will be propelled, I believe, because don't forget, the left, I don't even have to go to the radical left, just the left in general, today in 2025, and we can assume that it'll be more so this case in 2028, the left loves a good victim, more so than pretty much anything else. You know, they love to take somebody who has been victimized in some way, who has been weakened in some way, and to elevate them. So if these rumors are true, it would be, in my humble opinion, a manufactured divorce, just as I believe that they have a manufactured marriage. Okay. I was saying this long before everybody else was talking about, oh my gosh, you know, it looks like Jennifer Aniston and blah, blah, blah. Before any of that stuff, I was already saying, hey, I think that there's trouble in Obama land, and that trouble is manufactured. I don't think that there was ever any real love there. I seriously don't. And now I think that we're starting to see the beginning of the Obama endgame, so to speak, the intention of the globalist elite cabal to propel Michelle Obama into the Oval Office. Now, here's the thing. If nothing happens, if this is all rumors, then so be it. You know, then that I will say, hey, we dodged a bullet. You know, the Obamas will go, hopefully, Lord willing, fade into obscurity. Sort of like the Clintons. The Obamas will fade into obscurity, and then we'll deal with whoever else they throw at us. Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or whoever they throw at us at 2028 to go up against JD Vance or whoever we put up, right? But if you see a divorce, you can pretty much bank on it, that this is the setup to try to get Michelle Obama into office. And she will be supported by Barack Obama, to be clear. He'll be like, oh, you know, she's the best, she's the greatest, I love her. You know, it didn't work out for us, but hey, we still got our children, and hey, you know, I'll just be a bachelor. You know, I'll live in the D.C. area, maybe New York, maybe wherever, Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, it's a horrible Barack Obama impersonation. Sounded more like a Muppet, but still, you get the idea. If they divorce, if there really is trouble, that trouble is manufactured, and it's to propel Michelle Obama through victimhood towards the White House in 2028. But here's the thing. If President Trump and if MAGA patriots are able to generate the type of success that we think we can with his policies, with our efforts, if we can make America truly great again, it won't matter who they throw up. They won't be able to defeat a continuation of greatness, especially after 4 years of weakness that we've had here in the United States of America. So, yeah, our job remains the same. Pray, read your Bible, spread the gospel, spread the word, help to make America great again, and take care of yourself and your family. That's the best way to move forward, in my humble opinion. Do I want to do one more story? No, I don't. Let's go ahead. I've got like 7 other stories. But you know what? 2 hours is enough. 2 hours is good. I will try to do the stories faster tomorrow. But I like this. I like the 2-hour show. Lord willing, I will be back tomorrow with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.